Greetings, I am RnBUntapped, metaphysical master in a millennial age, and it is my life's purpose to guide you and organizations along an enlightened path. So I invite you to sit comfortably and tune in as I welcome you to the Meta Business Millennial, where we get the real conversations you won't get in the boardroom so that we understand this is exactly the path we need to be on in order to grow, evolve, and thrive. Greetings, I am RnBUntapped, also known as Master L, and welcome to the Meta Business Millennial Podcast. And I am joined today with none other than my friend. I've worked with him. I am very much an admirer of your work, of your brand. Drew of the Aware brand, founder and creative director. Yep. So welcome to the Meta Business Millennial Podcast.
Woo! No, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here right now. So thank you.
Yes, it is an honor and privilege, honestly. So just so the audience knows, we go back several years, actually, when I was founding and creating my hair product line. Drew brought me in to do a panel to really talk about what it meant to have a conscious brand, because we were kind of the forerunners in this space and in many ways still are. And so we're going to get a little bit more into how you do what you do. But before we do that, where are you from? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself, like your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Definitely, and I hope the animals in the background don't, interrupt this conversation. But
I don't hear no animals.
All right, cool. But I'm a military child. I was born in Spain, Cadiz. My father was a Marine. My mother was in the Navy. So we moved to New York. After my mom was done with the service, we moved over to New York. I was around like 3 years old. So I grew up in New York all up until I graduated from high school. Small town called Spring Valley, New York is what I claim. But I lived in Brooklyn for some time as a child. But definitely represent the 845 Spring Valley, New York.
Where is that? I don't even know where that is.
So it's like 30 minutes outside of Manhattan. It's
okay.
It's like right up the Hudson. They like to call it the Hudson Valley, but it's like, across the George Washington Bridge, up Palisades Parkway, 30 miles, and you're in my town. So not too far from Manhattan. So
beautiful.
Yeah, 30 minutes, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so tell us a little bit more. So when you left New York, what happened? Like, that was a long time ago.
I know. I feel like I'm getting old. I'm getting old right now, man. But no, that's just in the mind. But no, I decided that I wanted to go to school in a different place where I didn't know anyone. Like, I was like, you know what? I want to leave this town because it was such a small town. And I felt like if I would have stayed there, I would have probably went a different direction in life. So I was like, I need to get as far away as possible from this town. And I ended up going to college in Alabama. I went to Tuskegee University. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know anybody down there. I was like, I'm just going to try something different, try something new. I was going to go to Morehouse, but I ended up running summer track, and they wanted me to come to summer school. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And running with this track club, we made it to nationals. And I was like, I'm going to nationals with my 4x1 team. and then ended up going to Tuskegee at the end of that summer. So, and that was the best decision I think I could have made in that stage of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then continue on after college.
After college, stayed there for stayed in Alabama from 2005 to 2010. And after that, I went to LA for a minute just to try to really get into, my dream, which was being a music manager, an artist manager, like in A&R. Like, that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I was doing that in college. I was managing artists in college. I was producing. I had a studio in my crib, so we was making music in my house.
Come on now.
I was throwing parties, throwing events. And I was like, nah, I want to do this full time. Like, so I ended up taking an internship after I graduated from college with the music manager. Will not mention his name, but at the time he was managing an artist named Keisha Cole. and started working with him, and that transitioned into me leaving them for like after a month to intern for another management company, and that was Adam Factory, and they were managing at the time Nas, Lady Gaga, Mindless Behavior, just to name a few artists. And then I did that for like
Cool.
another month, and but I was living with my aunt at the time in LA. She was like, "Hey, look, I know you just graduated from college, and I know you're interning, but you're gonna have to start paying some bills if you're gonna stay here." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I need to
Hey.
get a job." So I asked my internship. I was like, "Hey, are you guys looking to hire me? What's up? Like, I need to know." Well, they like, "Drew, you only been here for a month. Give it a couple more months." And I'm like, "Yo, I don't got a couple more months."
Right. Right.
So God blessed me with this opportunity. I ended up getting a call uh, through a family friend who was saying that they're looking for some production assistants for the Monique show in Atlanta. My
Mm.
mother just moved to Atlanta about a year before that. So that was my new home. So I was like, all right, why not? I'm gonna just go back to the A and work in production. I had no desire to work in television and film. My music was my heart. But you know what? I said, you know what? Let me try something different. I ended up moving back to Atlanta that fall and started working on the Monique show. I did that ended up being like for 2 seasons. And
Nice.
yeah, and from there, worked on Sunday's Best, worked on The Game. I worked on so many shows that was at the BT Screen Gems production facility. And then worked in a couple other, television and film productions with Tyler Perry and VH1. But I was doing that for like 5 years, and I was like, all right, these checks are cool, it's consistent, but I don't like working 13, 14, 15, 16-hour days. I don't really care for production like this. And I worked in every department. I worked in from the talent department to um, uh, the accounting department, doing people's payroll, working with the assistant directors, working with the DP. So I worked in every department, and I was like, it's cool. I get to understand television and film from each side of it, but it still wasn't calling me. So I was like, you know what, I got to get up out of this. And I ended up transitioning to, working in marketing full time. But
Mm.
during that time, I was doing my own thing. I have this entrepreneurship desire heart, right? I can't not
Yes.
do my own thing on the side. So even throughout me working in television and film, I was managing artists. I was, producing my own shows, my live shows, which is RnBUntapped, and that was a platform for emerging R&B artists at the time. And that was it. Like I was just hustling on the side the whole time. I was really taking my
Right.
checks and then putting it to my own thing. And you know, I feel like it's a longer story, but I'm gonna stop right there because I feel like I'm getting long-winded.
No, this is about you. This is your
Yeah,
interview
yeah,
because I
100%.
mean, I'm going to keep asking questions because
Yeah,
I really want to start getting to how you transitioned into the entrepreneurial path that you're on now
yeah.
because you have a brand called the Aware brand. So
Hmm.
awareness as we know it is aligned with consciousness, is aligned with higher being, higher
Yeah,
vibrations,
yeah.
with love energy.
Mm,
And you have on a beautiful hoodie now, God is woman.
yeah.
And so really want to start getting into what inspired this shift, first of all,
Yeah.
into, 100% entrepreneur.
Nah,
And
I think
then
that makes
also what was it that shifted you into like this more awareness path, this aware path, this more
yeah,
metaphysical,
that's
spiritual path?
great. That's great. I think my last production job shifted me. I was working on set. I got fired. And my boss was like, yo, I'm gonna let you go, man. And it's not because of like who you are or like the work. I just don't feel like you're passionate about this, Drew. And I see your passion. I know what you're passionate about, and I want to push you out the door. And and this is me letting you go to do that. And it was right around my birthday. And I was like, you would fire me around my birthday, bro. Like, come on, man. And at the time, I was literally like feeling myself transitioning. I was probably like 26 or around that time. And I just started producing like RnBUntapped too. So I just started, doing my shows, my live shows. And yeah, he fired me. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. So I don't know. I called my boy and I was like, bro, I got fired. What am I gonna do? He's like, bro, just go to your local pharmacy, get you a journal and start journaling your feelings.
Okay.
And I was
Oh.
like, okay. He's like, yo, there's nothing wrong. Like, just journal how you feel about this whole situation.
Mm.
And I did that, and I was just pouring so much out. I didn't even know I had all these feelings inside of me.
Mm.
As I was journaling, I was like, wow. And then I ended up getting a book by Deepak Chopra called Seven Spiritual Laws of Success.
Yes.
And I don't know how I ended up getting that book, but I just started reading it, and it was opening me up. Like, I was just like, what? How did I miss out on all this information? Deepak, tell me more. Like, just tell me more.
Yeah, I know
And
the
the book was,
feeling.
yeah, and that book was really heavy on self-awareness.
Yes.
So I woke up out of my sleep around like 2 or 3 in the morning, and the word aware came to me. And again, mind you, this is around 2014, 2015, 2016. And we're just coming out of all this police brutality, right? There's so much happening to us.
Yes, that was like the height of the Black. Yeah, that was the
it was
Black Lives Matter.
that was the height of it, right?
Yeah, that was the
Like,
riots and all this. Yeah.
and I'm like, yo, I'm tired of going in the streets and rioting. I'm tired of like protesting.
Same.
You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of all of this. Like, there has to be another way.
Right.
And it dawned on me, is like, yo, it's us. And not to point fingers, but to more to take accountability of
Period.
like what's happening.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tired of saying, well, it's them. Nah. What can we do as a culture, Black people in America and around the world? What can we do to own our power more?
Mm-hmm.
And as I was thinking about the word aware, I was saying, damn, we're lacking self-awareness. Mm-hmm. We're lacking awareness of who we are and our innate power within. Mm-hmm. We don't even know how to connect with that. And we're the most powerful beings on this planet. And we don't even know how to even connect, but they strip that away from us.
Right.
But how do we align back with that power? Like, what are the steps? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a student of this game and learn and pour into myself right now. So that's what started the whole self-awareness journey. Just picking up a book and picking up a journal and started writing. So I called my brother Rich, who was the one who suggested to get the journal. And I was like, yo, I woke up out of my sleep last night. I feel like we got to do something with this word aware. I'm not sure what we're gonna do with it, but we're gonna do something with it. Maybe we start off with doing a hat and t-shirt and just sell it out of our trunk. And that's what it was. That was around 2015, 2016. Just doing it, like doing super light stuff. I had, a hat, a shirt, giving it away to family and friends. And that was it. Because I was really focused on my music stuff still. So fast forward to 2017, I was like, all right, you know what? I want to take this brand a little bit more seriously. Like, people are asking about it. People are buying these little 12 shirt runs, 25 shirt runs. All right, let me get a website. Let me get a photo shoot going. Let me package this brand up and really give it to the world at this point. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened around 2017. We launched the website. We added a few more pieces to the collection, and we just started pushing from there. And at the same time, I was still working. I wasn't a full-time entrepreneur yet. I was still working. I dove into the marketing world. I started working for a marketing agency as an experiential marketing tour manager. So working with different brands like Coca-Cola, Sprite, SiriusXM, Def Jam as a record label, and just really taking their products to different markets and setting up at different events or building our own activations in different markets and just touring around the country doing that. But that afforded me to really learn about subcultures in America, and just really just understand people in the middle of America. I was literally in the middle of Trump's campaign in Arkansas, in Oklahoma, and I was seeing like how people were gravitating to his campaign for his presidency.
Yeah.
Wow, this is crazy. I was in Ohio. I was in these different parts of the country, and just learning about Americans and American culture. And then not only that, but subculture and the Black culture, right? Because I think people forget that, Black people in America, they're a subculture. There's a subculture under Black Americans, right?
Yeah.
You got people from Houston, like, that's the whole different culture than from where I'm from in New York. And, you got New York different from Detroit, that you experience as well with me. So, it afforded me to just travel and just see and understand just culture. And then so around 2018, I feel like I'm going through a whole timeline.
You
2018,
should.
I
Yeah.
decided to move to Detroit. I started over. I lost my job working at this marketing agency. I didn't have shit. I hope I could curse. I didn't have anything. And I was literally dead broke, and I just had a dream, and God led me to move to Detroit. And I called my boy. He was like, "Yo, I think this might be the move for you," Omar, who I think you met. And he was like, "Yo, I got a couch. You could just make your way up here, and start over." And I literally did that. Like I took God's voice, and I was like, "God, if you want me to go to Detroit, I'll do it." And mind you, I had no future thoughts of living in Detroit. I don't even care to live in Detroit. I don't even like Michigan, none of that. So ended up going up there. And within 6 months, I ended up getting my dream job working with a liquor company as an activation manager. And I was like, dang, all right, maybe this was worth it. And then pushing the brand out there, the Aware brand, and we was catching a lot of traction. I was able to activate and do events. I worked with you on a brand activation with your brand. And it was beautiful, you know what I mean? And I was able to, create a community in Detroit, build with some people. And from there, I would say just fast forwarding from 2018 up until now, because I lost my job due to COVID. And I would say from 2020 to 2020 to 2023 or 2022, I was a full-time entrepreneur. Literally, like, all I did was focus on the Aware brand.
Yeah.
And put a lot of energy into that. And I noticed when I put energy into something, it goes. And that may be the metaphysics, right? It's like, pulling from that substance, that God substance, and just really like manifesting what I want through thought, through affirmations, through action, and just really just honing in, right? And tapping into that ether that we all have access to, but just have to practice and work on it, right? So, we ended up landing the deal with Foot Locker in the middle of COVID. Started off with 2 stores. That 2 stores now is grew to 40 stores. And here we are today in this conversation.
Come on, God.
I hope that was a super long.
Yay!
But everybody's listening right now. Like, I know
listening
it was
and watching, and
watching.
they are so impressed. And because you are, I already told you, the first Black male I had on this show. We haven't had many men, and we talk about things that are deep too, and sometimes traumatic and painful. And I want to go back to when you were talking about your journaling, because a lot of men, we don't really hear them talk about their emotions and what they're going through. And I would like for you, if it's okay for you, to give us a little preview of maybe some of your entries. Like, what were some of the things you were processing as you were going through this transition in your life?
One of the biggest things I processed was forgiveness. I had to forgive myself for putting myself in situations that I probably shouldn't have been in. But it was life, right? So can't carry it anymore. So in order to drop it, I had to forgive myself. I forgave my mother, who I felt like hurt me along my life, but not in a bad way. And she subconsciously did it. She didn't intentionally hurt me. But a lot of us deal with parent trauma, like parental trauma. And, our parents did the best they could possibly do, but some of them just was in a cycle and only do what they were taught from their parents.
Period.
And so I think, I had to forgive her for the stuff she didn't do intentionally, but just the things that she said to me. I was like, because it affected me in certain ways. And I was raised just by a single parent. I was raised by my mother. So I didn't have a father, she tried her best to give me that masculine energy, but a woman can't do that, right? All the way. So I had to learn to forgive her for that. I had to forgive the women that I dated in my life. I had to forgive. I called, it was crazy. I called people who I thought I hurt, and I was like, can you forgive me? And this is like in the beginning of the process. Like this is like me, like just like probably my first journal book. Like I was just like, no, I gotta forgive. And so I would say that was like a huge part of it, right? So I could at least release, I could release all the turmoil, all the pain, all of the bad experiences, all of the mental blockages that I was incurring on myself. I had to let it go. And I think the biggest way to release is to forgive. So, and a lot of us don't forgive ourselves. And I think that's
Yes.
the biggest thing, right? I have to forgive
Yes.
myself. So yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, child trauma. I mean, that was in the beginning, and I think over time, I've always like done like different rituals. Like I practiced with some Ifa priestess that does some ancestral rituals with her. I've gone to Sedona and done some rituals, out there. So I'm always practicing and healing. I think the healing process is always going to be ongoing because you got to think about all the stuff that if you started at 30 years old, you got to think about all the trauma that you done brought on from 0 to 30. It's a lot. It's like all these grooves that's in your mind and your brain. You have to kind of compound on the healing, and that takes time. It took 30 years to get you to that point. Think about how many years it's going to take for you to heal. Healing is not an overnight process. So I try to like at least focus on the healing part continuously, like throughout my life every day. And that's just affirming my life, like who I am, and just like kind of like staying in tune with God. And and I'm not gonna sit here and be like I'm like the most perfect person. I have my relapse. I relapse into being the old version of myself,
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of the process, right? You're gonna
Yes.
relapse. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna because
Yes.
your mind knows one way of thinking or a couple ways of thinking that doesn't probably serve you anymore, but you will go into autopilot sometimes, and then going into autopilot will be the process of what you used to operate under. So, um, I have to be conscious at all times. Try to be conscious at all times of my actions and what I'm doing. But yeah, I would say like the forgiveness part. I know we went to a whole another part, but yeah, forgiveness is definitely
Yes.
one of the deeper things that I had to do with, and then also just like the childhood trauma and just working on that part for sure.
That's beautiful. And what resonates so deeply with me is that forgiveness piece, because even to this day, I am still working through my own self-judgment. Like I'm my harshest critic. And anytime I come up against challenge, like I was just sharing with you, like life is challenging, it's fucking challenging. And people always can point fingers at me and say I'm doing this wrong, or I'm doing that wrong, or I'm this person, or I'm that. And we have a tendency, if our voice and our knowing of self is not strong enough, to internalize the bullshit, internalize the judgment from others as our own. And so when you talk about that forgiveness, it has to start with ourselves, because if we don't see the purity in ourselves, if we don't see the goodness and truth in ourselves, then nobody fucking can. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody can. And that's essentially where the work begins. And so that's really beautiful that you were like in your first journal, you're like not only journaling, but you making phone calls and talking to people about it. And that's like, that takes a lot of courage and also a lot of vulnerability. And that's something we don't hear from men in general. And with that said, I want to just dig a little bit more into that in terms of the vulnerability in men. Do you have these kinds of conversations like with your boy, with your mates, with like guys that you work with, or people that you
Yeah.
run with?
Yeah. I'm gonna say I'm probably the most vulnerable person. I can be vulnerable. I was told in my dating life that I wasn't that vulnerable in the past.
Okay.
So I tried to work on being vulnerable, but for me, I'm a warrior. So I think like me being a little too vulnerable with the wrong person can be used against me. So I have to use
Yes.
discernment to
Yes.
know who I'm being vulnerable with.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, but with my boys in my close knit circle, oh yeah, we talk about real things. Like we don't shy away from being vulnerable with each other. And then my relationships, with my mates, when I was in a relationship, my last relationship in particular. Like I tried to be very vulnerable. But that kind of got me in the bad space with that. So,
In what way?
I mean,
Because that's like
I
every
don't,
girl's dream for a man to be
yeah,
emotionally
100%. And
available.
I think I wasn't getting that vulnerability back though. And that
Okay.
was causing a blockage. But,
Mhm.
my story might be different from hers. But I would say,
Yeah, that's true.
um, yeah, I try to be vulnerable. I tell people all the time, I'm an open book. You just got to ask me the right questions.
Right.
You got to turn to the right page because I'm
Right.
a very multi-layered individual.
Mhm.
So you have to peel the layers back, but you have to do the work. But I'll give you the answers if you know how to get there, or if you want to get there. You just gotta ask. So vulnerability is very key, and I feel like I'm in a very vulnerable stage in my life right now too. Right now, my homegirl is like, "Yo, be careful with the young ladies who you dating right now because they could sense vulnerability, and some women ain't really on your team. They just want to. They might see you like vulnerable, and they be like, oh, I want this. Like I need this all out of him, and use it against. Not really say use it against me, but use it to their advantage more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it may
But
not
that's
even.
where you say that discernment comes in, because when you're able
Oh,
to exercise that discernment, then you're really able to see, is this person for me or not?
yeah,
And
100%.
sometimes those tricky situations, or those taker situation, or those user situations, and I've had my share and
Mm-hmm.
continue to, they're actually lessons from God, and us strengthening ourselves and being able to, because they're usually painful. That's really what it is we want to avoid the pain. But it's in that pain, when you realize someone's betraying you or doesn't think the best of you, even when you have the best intentions, that you're like, okay, this just forces me to look back at myself. Why am I inflicting this judgment on myself? Back to your forgiveness. So even if you are vulnerable and attract someone who takes advantage per se, it's nothing but a deeper lesson that you needed to get to that next level. And that's why I never anymore. I used to get to the point where I'd just be like destitute, like totally just like, I said destitute, but just like I literally would just be so depressed and so, despondent and unhappy with my decisions or where I was in life, when I really was, these were just opportunities for me to just go deeper and learn more and extract greater lessons so I can move higher. Because it's like growing pains, we have to be able to grow and feel that pain in order to have the wings to really fly. And so that's what it is.
I love that you mentioned growing pains because somebody asked me how I was doing yesterday, and I said I'm good, but I'm just going through growing pains right now. And I embrace it. I used to try to run away from the growing pains, like damn, why
Yeah.
does. But I think, like you said, in order to expand, right, and get those wings to soar and excel, you have to go through the pain. It's like working out.
Yes.
That's why I work out, because it reminds me, like, yo, the pain
Mhm.
means it's working. Like the pain means
Yes.
I'm actually stretching my muscles and I'm working the muscles, and it's going to be a stronger muscle. So I use that as an analogy for life. If I'm going through something, like you said, it's a learning lesson,
Mhm.
and it's all about perspective, right? Like, cause so you can be the woe is me type of person, like, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh my God, like, and be missing the whole picture, right? Or you could be like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, this happened. Let me take a couple steps back. Let me look at this a little bit from a full point of view perspective and see how I can pull the lessons out of this issue, right? Yeah, it may suck. You may feel fucked up about it at the moment, but
Right.
there's a lesson in it. And
Period.
and you have to look at it. If you have a perspective like that, it will take you a long way for sure.
Yes. And I love that you brought up that victim mindset, because that's essentially what it is, that woe is me, or blaming other people on for everything too. Like that's the situation that I find myself in, is I'm always the blame for other people's problems or other people's issues. And it's like, instead of like having that victim mindset or that blaming others, having that awareness. And so I really want you to define what aware means to you, because that's the name of your brand. We're talking
Yeah.
about, can you define what it means to you?
Oh man.
Describe or what
Yeah,
is
I
the
think
difference?
aware means to me, well, we started the brand. So and I feel like I didn't even talk about why we started the Aware brand. Well, we did. It was because I wanted people and even myself, right, to be more aware of who we are, but that starts with self-love.
Mm,
You know, it's the love. That the love is the key. The love is the answer, right? And for me, self-awareness or just aware is anchored in love, but it's also being aware of how you internally feel, right? It's about being aware of the external, what's going on outside of your body. Um, Being aware that, there is a higher power that's really driving this whole thing, and knowing that you have access to that power at
mhm.
all times.
Yes,
Being an aware human to me is being mentally healthy.
yes,
So yeah, so just working through the mental constraints that you may have on a day-to-day basis, but knowing that being aware of there are tools, there are people that can help you work through the mental and become a healthier person mentally. Physical health, being a physically healthy, working out, doing yoga, just motion, body motion, utilizing
mhm,
what we were gifted with through a physical component, and then spiritually, right? Spiritually healthy. And it doesn't matter what you practice as a religion,
yeah,
you know, as long as you use that as a vehicle to get in tune with the the highest source, the most high, which is God, right? The
yes,
universe. And
yes.
so that's what an aware human is to me: mentally healthy, physically healthy, and spiritually healthy. And it's all rooted in love.
Mm. Come on now. I always talk about this in my podcast because I'm always like, we have three bodies. We have our physical body, we have our emotional, or to your point, the mental body, and then we have our etheric, our spiritual, our soul. And if we aren't tapping into all three, then we aren't activating our fullest potential. And
Yep.
most people are physically inclined. Like we're all so smart, like we went to college or grad school or these things, and we want to use our brain all the time, but that's only like 33% of who we are.
Yep.
We're the majority of our being is latent, or it's not even active. It's like
Mm.
dead almost, you know? And then now we've kind of moved into this space of like mental health. So there is a little bit more awareness around, okay, how am I actually feeling? For most people, they don't even know. You know, you ask someone, how are you? Everyone says fine or good. Most people
Mm.
don't even know what their feelings mean.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
be able to exercise that, like you did your whole journal path, and you're
Yep.
vulnerable now, you talk to people, you talk about how you feel, like you know how you
Yep.
feel, that's exercising that aspect of yourself. And
Yep.
then it's the soul part, which a lot of us really don't know because that's the God self, you know, you
Mm.
spoke about. And that's when we're having to listen and not be talking so much and really, you know, use our intuition and
Yes.
move, you know,
Yes.
and flow. And so
Yes.
you hit
Yes.
all of that on the head. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Nah, and I
Yeah.
love what you were saying, like expressing how you feel. There's an exercise. There's a woman that is like a spiritual mentor of mine. Her name is Lola Wright. And we did this exercise. I used to be a part of this cohort last year. I finished the cohort. It's a 12-week program to become like a spiritual coach in a sense. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Or more like I coined it like a more of an awareness coach. But
Okay.
I'm still getting my chops up because I haven't even put myself out there yet to be a coach, and I'm not sure if I even want to even go in that direction as of
Mhm.
yet. Um, but it's a feeling state, right? And you have to use how you're feeling and ending it with ing, right? So there's a tingling in my belly. There's a clenching in my jaw, like
Mhm.
being able to express how you feel.
Mhm.
Um, but instead of saying I'm okay or I'm good, but like talk about the sensations that you're feeling in your body. And when you can connect to the sensations, you're able to kind of like connect it to something else. Like, why am I clenching my jaw? Why am I feeling this tingling in my belly, or my tingling in my chest, or a rumbling? Like, why am I feeling this way? So that now it takes it to a deeper level of connecting those sensations to, that feeling,
Yes, absolutely. And when we connect, that essentially is kind of like the mind body connection, because most people aren't connected to the body. And when we're fully embodied, like that's when we're really able to activate our divinity. And most of the time we're not fully feeling into our body. Like when we're feeling it, we're like, oh, my tummy hurts, but then why? And like now when I'm able to feel it and sense it, I know, oh, wow, I'm anxious. Like this person makes me uncomfortable, or I don't feel safe. I'm able to discern what the pain in my body is telling me. And so I love that you are invited to really at least fill into the senses and acknowledge them. And then I feel like when you kind of get to that next step is when you're able to like get the messages from those feelings, because that's what, being in your body embodied means.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's deep. But I was going to go into a conversation, but I think that would be for more of a one-on-one, not on the podcast.
Okay. Well, yeah, I love that. And so I want to dig a little bit more deeper, because this is the Meta Business Millennial Podcast, into the business of the Aware brand. So, I mean, you said you were sleeping on your friend's couch, you were selling t-shirts out the trunk, and then now you're in 40 Foot Lockers. So can you kind of speak to, first of all, like, how did you grow it? And then how are you sustainable today? Like, are there any practices too that you think are unique to your company that make you successful?
It's so interesting that you asked that question, and also I'm sure when people hear, wow, you have a retail partnership, a big one. Foot Locker is one of the biggest retailers in the world. You know, I feel like we're still in the baby stage. I'm still figuring it out. So when people are like, yo, give me the tricks, I'm like, yo, I'm still figuring this shit out. Like I am figuring this out. But I would say, number one thing, have a strong team. And my team, I have to give my team some kudos. I feel like I've definitely been like pulling the plane. I'm like, come on, let's go. Been pulling them, but they show when they need to. So anybody who's out there listening and watching, like, make sure your team is tight, you know what I mean? And then not only that, not just having a team, but having people in the right seats, playing the right role. I think that's, you know what I mean? Because like, think of that. You felt that one?
I love that one.
Yeah,
I love that one.
Yeah, just like playing the right role, man. I mean, we had to do, we dealt with some of that internally, you know what I mean? Like people weren't playing the right role. And I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. Like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know that, I know that you're down for the cause, but like, let's get into these skill sets that you naturally have and put you in a position to expose those skill sets and fine tune those skill sets so you could be a master and an expert in that space. That's the key, right? We want experts in the seats. We don't want mediocre or anybody just trying. Now we need experts. At this point, we want to yield and scale up. We gotta put the right people in the right seats. So that's one thing. Being innovative, you know what I'm saying? And being ahead of the curve. I think the reason why the Aware brand has success right now is because we were one of the first collectives talking about self-awareness before it was even cool.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't see anybody talking about being aware or this self-love stuff before us. I'm sorry. Like if they were around, they wasn't as big, or they was in their own little community, whatever. But I think we was one of the first brands to like kind of marry this streetwear thing with self-awareness and self-love on a major level. And again, I feel like we still ain't even at that level where we need to be at. You know what I'm saying? We're still growing. But now I'm seeing a lot of streetwear brands kind of like on that same kick. But also, I will also say, so being ahead of the curve, trusting your intuition, trusting that whatever that God downloaded on you, that vision and that desire that you have to just go with it. You know what I'm saying? Because again, like we were one of the first brands to be on this type of time, but we didn't know if people was going to latch on to it. And it's funny, we started in 2016. We started catching the wave 4 years later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to be faithful in the thought that was downloaded on you from God.
Yes.
Just know that it's going to work out.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You just got to know it's going to work, you know? So, and that is, when you have faith like that, there's nothing that can stop you, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, so faith, having a strong team, systems and processes like S&Ps, you know, and we're still building that out. I'm actually really starting over on building the system and process for the Aware brand. And then also because, you know, when you have that system and process together, you have a strong, well-oiled machine. You know what I'm saying? If you're just in a disarray, you're just working, going with it, just going about the process every day. You don't even know what you're doing. You're just going about it. You're gonna crash into a wall. I'm just letting you know.
Period. Yes.
You're gonna crash into
Not
a
sustainable.
wall. It's not sustainable at all. So building that system and process out, and just love what you do at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, just love it. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be those down moments. You know, those $10,000 months, those $20,000 months, those $30,000 months might turn into a $1,500 month, you know, consecutively. You know what I'm saying? So you got to know, like, you got to be like, all right, this is just a down moment. I'm staying locked in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay on it, you know. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question. It's just really just, you know, building out a system, building out a team that works out for you at the end of the day. And I think that for me, you know, we're continuously doing that. And I just have a strong team, and we've been getting there, you know, and we got so much more to do, so many other things to accomplish. Where I still feel like we're a baby, you know, just crawling away. And eventually we're about to start walking this thing.
Okay, you're not even walking yet. Okay.
I don't think we're walking yet.
Okay.
I don't think we're walking because this brand is gonna be around for like 50 to 100 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want this
minimum.
to be it's going to minimum. You know what I mean? This is going to be a staple brand that started in America. You feel me? Like, that now is global and it's transforming people's lives, not just apparel. Because I try to tell people this is not an apparel company. This is a lifestyle company. We're creating a lifestyle of aware humans. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we creating here. And hopefully a person can come here, be inspired, be impacted, and start their own self-awareness journey. Or we add to somebody's self-awareness journey that they're already on, and they just met a crew and in the movement and a group of people that's on the same page as them, and they found their community, they found their tribe.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing.
I love it. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your vision, your long-term vision, because I often ask people that too, and you just volunteered it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's easy. Like, anybody can ask me, this is a brand that's going to be around. I want this for my kids, and whoever my partners that's involved with me, I want this for their family as well.
Yes.
You know, I want this for their families. I want their families to eat off of this forever. You know what I'm saying? Because we're building this up together. So, you know, this is legacy. This is something that I can definitely stand on and say, this is my legacy brand. I got other brands I'm working on, but this is definitely my legacy brand for sure.
Period.
So I hope I answered your question from going to 2 to 40 stores in Foot Locker. You know, having a good team and all that stuff. But yeah, for sure.
And one thing that deeply resonated with me when you talked about is your faith. And I recently had a podcast where I was talking about spiritual discipline. And that, I think, is what started to ring and resonate with me in terms of like how it aligned with kind of how I felt from what you were saying, is that when you're disciplined in your walk, when you're disciplined in your purpose, when you're disciplined in your mission from God to bring forth this lifestyle brand that's going to lift up human consciousness and people around the world, then it don't matter what the numbers look like. It don't matter how like you got to stay up to do the work. It don't matter who you got to get in an argument with today, or who coming for you, that, whatever challenges look like, that what the end goal is. So you have to be disciplined. You have to wake up and trust and know that this was for me and no one can take that from me. And that's kind of what I felt from that.
I love that you took that. Really got that. Oh, makes me feel good for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, this kind of wraps up our podcast for today.
That's it.
That's it. We already made it to the time limit.
Wow. Dang. I thought it was gonna go longer. No.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind just sharing with our listeners and our viewers how they can tap in with you and also, support the Aware brand, that'd be really great.
Well, for those who are watching and listening, you made it here. You made it to the end. I just want to thank you for staying tuned in. If you want to learn more, you can find me on Instagram at Das the Great. That's DASTHE Great. And you can follow the brand at The Aware Brand, THE Aware Brand, on all social media platforms. And then go to the website, theawarebrand.com. We have a lot of great products on the site. We got some home goods. We got some apparel. A lot of cool stuff on there. And then check out our YouTube page too. I mean, we do a segment called Aware Combos, where we interview aware humans all over the place, all over the globe. And, your girl, Erin here, she will be on our platform one day. It's very soon. So we can talk about her story. But yeah, check out our YouTube page. Got a lot of dope content on there. But stay tuned in. We got a lot of stuff, locked in. If you're in the New York City area, tri-state area, go to one of the Foot Lockers and, shop with us as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you. And for all the listeners and viewers, this concludes this episode of the Meta Business Millennial. Please check us out on the next cast. And in the meantime, you can follow me at I am Erin Patton on social media. Also, the Meta Business Millennial has a podcast too on Instagram and on YouTube. And of course, there are resources that you can continue to source for your enlightenment journey at themetabusiness.world. And until we see you again, much love and light to you. Peace. Did you really love this episode of the Meta Business Millennial podcast? Well, I am honored. And I appreciate you subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends, because your feedback allows us to co-create more enlightened conversations. And if you're interested in growing your soul now, head over to my website, RnBUntapped.com, to find all the show notes, links, and free resources to get your energy activated today. In the meantime, stay bright, my friends. Much love and light. Peace.